Ina, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Yeah. My name is Ina. I'm a research assistant at King's College London. And I'm going to present you my presentation on female mHealth apps, opportunities and challenges. So let's start by defining some terms. What are female mobile health apps, also popular as mHealth apps? These apps are part of a massively growing female technology industry, also known as femtech. And femtech is focusing on using technology to solve health issues of women and those who have female reproductive capabilities, and cover a wide area of health issues such as reproductive. Sorry, I'll be more gentle. Reproductive health, menstrual, maternal, sexual, pelvic, vaginal, oncological. Sorry. Autoimmune, mental, cardiovascular, and even more. Femtech also includes a wide range of products and services such as medical devices, wearables, consumer products, healthcare services, and finally mHealth apps and software, which this presentation will focus on specifically. So they include features such as period tracking, cycle history records and predictions, pregnancy monitoring, birth control management, symptoms log, and many more features which are quite useful for women and users. So some popular mHealth apps include Clue and Flow. Clue is regarded as the world's first period tracking app. It has 11 million monthly users in over 190 countries, and Flow is considered the most recognized female health app, and it has 50 million monthly users in over 200 countries. So these are quite popular and used among women. So the high popularity in turns make them into rapidly growing industry, with a market size estimated at approximately $3.2 billion in 2022, which has increased to almost $4 billion in this year, and it's expected to increase to almost $13 billion in 2030. So there has been a revolution in femtech, which suggests that female healthcare has started to receive more attention and became a great market and investment opportunity. So the benefits of using female mHealth apps are that they provide personalized care and a wide range of functionalities, such as, for example, they allow users to see patterns and also provide full picture of their menstrual health. They're easy to use. They contribute to destigmatization and awareness of female health issues, as it's normalizing the way people talk and perceive about them, and also improve access to healthcare, as it's making personalized health solutions more accessible and affordable. So how do female apps work on a very basic level? I hope that there are no data engineers here, because this is very, very basic explanation. As with general data health technology, they rely on consumer data that creates and power algorithms, which in turn provide high tracking features such as predicted outcomes and visualizations in graph, which results in overall personalization. So what type of data do these apps usually collect? In order to create an account, they collect user data such as name, date of birth, location, and contact details such as email. In order to function, they require health-related personal data of the user, such as lifestyle data, period data, pregnancy data, sexual activities, medical information, physical symptoms, mental state, and very often these apps provide the opportunity for partners, for example, to participate in that experience by tracking their sexual and reproductive health as well. And they can also collect child-related data for pregnancy, for example, female health apps. And finally, they collect also device-related data, such as IP address, device type, and they often request permissions to access things such as camera, microphone, phone, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and so on. So we can see that these apps collect information that can be very informative about the person who is using the app. let's see what kind of inferences could we possibly make about someone if you have access to this data or access to their device. So we can know if they had sex, if they're pregnant, if they're not pregnant, if they're trying to conceive, if they gave birth, if they had a miscarriage or an abortion, or if they have health issues. So what we can see is that female health apps have access to every part of users' bodies, and users share their most intimate secrets with them, which can put them in a very vulnerable position, because we don't usually let everyone near our bodies. And although that this information might be necessary to optimize the app's functionality and precision, it can carry data privacy risks that users may be completely unaware of, such as, for example, the what so be called menstrual surveillance, which refers to female data being misused and shared with others. So let's see what kind of privacy practices female health apps usually do. I forgot to introduce. The first very common privacy practice includes third-party sharing. A recently conducted report has shown that 21 out of 25 apps share personal and sensitive data with third parties, the majority of which for marketing purposes, and only one of them actually asked users for their explicit consent, while the others hid that in their terms and conditions that unfortunately nearly no one reads. A recent example is the period tracker Flow, which, as I already mentioned, has more than 50 million monthly users, and it was a subject of a US Federal Trade Commission, and it was accused of selling users' data to tech giants such as Facebook and Google, and basically violating their users' trust. Another very interesting example is Ovia Head, which is a collection of family planning apps. And according to a recent report, Ovia has been used as a powerful monitoring tool by employers and health insurers, which under the banner of corporate wellness have been used to gather information about their workers' lives, which includes pregnancy and period data. And then after this data is collected, it's shared with the company, and then this company can know how many of their employers are pregnant, trying to get pregnant, or are facing high-risk pregnancies. So why is all this concerning? Third-party access allows these third parties to see what have users inputted in their fertility tracker so they can target their ads accordingly. So for example, users might start seeing ads about baby products such as bottles and diapers before they even know that they are pregnant. They can also lead to workplace discrimination in relation to pregnancy, because pregnancy redundancies and impact on promotion have been, and unfortunately still are, a source of anxiety for many working women. And as we saw, some apps are still sharing personal data about periods and pregnancies with employers, which can unfortunately further that gender inequality in workplace. Another privacy practice is that most apps permit the disclosure of data to law enforcement officers, and there are at least 4 ways law enforcement can obtain such data. First, directly through the digital device, through third parties, from the victim companies, through legal request. And reproductive data can be stolen and disclosed to law enforcement through a cyber attack. And in fact, according to Trust Wave report, healthcare data is shown to cost $550 per record on the black market, and that's compared to financial data, which costs just $5.40. So why is this concerning? Reproductive rights have been a recent topic of interest after the legal rollback of abortion rights in countries such as Poland and the US, and abortion has been also illegal in different parts of the world. So anyone convicted of carrying out an abortion can face up to years in prison, a fine, or both, depending on the country or the state they're living in. After the abortion bans in the US specifically, pro-choice activists advise users to delete these apps that track their menstrual cycles because there was a concern that the data from these apps could make its way to the hands of law enforcement and could be used as a prosecution evidence for individuals that are suspected to have illegal abortions. And I want to make a note here, that this is concerning because this means that anyone who provides their health data, regardless of their political views or attitudes towards abortions, are considered vulnerable because they can be potentially prosecuted based on misinterpreted data and can be criminalized even if they didn't have an abortion but their data showed otherwise. So is this fear of data disclosure unfounded? Let's have a look at some real-world examples. There are a number of cases, but let's have a brief look at 2 of them. So in Mississippi, a woman was charged with a second-degree murder for the death of her fetus, and as a part of the case, her phone was reviewed, and her internet search history shows searches for abortion pills. However, the charges were dropped in 2020. And also, sorry about this, yeah. Recently, Vice reported that a data broker, Safeguard, was selling abortion-related location for $160. This data included the name of the abortion clinic, how long the person stayed at the clinic, where the person came from, and where the person went after that. So these examples show that law enforcement can legally request personal data for prosecution purposes, but also show that data brokers can sell reproductive data and trace abortion-related data back to the individuals. And what laws guide these apps? Despite these harms, there are legal gaps on data privacy of female health apps. In the UK and in Europe, data processed by female health apps is protected by GDPR, but even in GDPR there are gaps because although that they put the explicit and unconditional consent of users on the high pedestal, GDPR does not protect the data of other people involved, as I already mentioned, partners and children, which put them in a very vulnerable position again because they are not the direct data subjects of that data, but intimate data about them is still collected. In the US, data collected by female health apps is not protected by HIPAA because HIPAA mostly protects covered entities such as medical providers, for example, doctors and hospitals. This type of data is governed by state legislation related to health data privacy if it exists in the relevant jurisdiction, and also the Federal Trade Commission, but it does not have a specific regulation on female health apps data, which has resulted in some sort of Wild West of privacy practices in the US. So, lacking meaningful choice regarding whether to accept or decline certain aspects of privacy policy, consumers face all or nothing scenario in which they must agree to privacy practices that might not adequately protect their health data, and failure to agree prevents consumers from accessing the app's desired functionality, which means that users are pressured to relinquish their data rights in exchange for very valuable healthcare services. So my question is, do the advantages of female mHealth apps outweigh the risks? And yeah, I'm ready for questions, and also I have some questions for you to initiate a discussion later. Yes. I can hear you.
Yeah, a fascinating, awesome presentation. I really I was interested in the valuation of health data versus financial data.
Yeah, it was quite interesting, yeah.
Where, I guess, how do they come by that number, and where is it being sold?
So I tried to find that TrustWave report, but the website was then shut down. I don't know for the reason for that, but I found more information on why healthcare data might be so expensive, and it turns out it can be used for blackmailing in relation to abortion laws, and also for health insurance frauds very often. And yeah, that's the reason, I guess, for its high cost. Yeah.
So we're going to do this mic passing that while the last person is asking a question, if you have one, put your hand up, and if the mic is in my hand, I will bring it to the first hand I see.
So you mentioned that the market value is $3 billion for these things, so they make some of the money with selling the data, they make some of the money with in-app ads. Where does most of the money come from, and can they, which of those are necessary for the business model, and which of them are small enough that maybe they could remove them?
Yeah, well, that's what I was trying to find out as well. How is this profit so big, and how are they profiting? Even given that the majority, not all, but the majority of apps are actually free of charge. So I was wondering what kind of procedures or what they do in order to profit. So I guess it's by selling data to third parties. And also, I guess some of them, the majority of the most popular apps, for example, Flow and Clue, included paid options as well. So I guess this is one source of income as well. But yeah.
What do you get when you pay?
So I think that I download Clue to see, and I think it just gives you more features in related to tracking your pregnancy. So if you're using the unpaid version of Clue, you can just track your period, and then if you pay for it, you can just track more features such as hormone levels and stuff like that, but I haven't checked in detail. But I can check very quickly after I go to my seat and open my phone and get back to you.
Hi.
Hi.
I had a question about this, that users are faced with like an all or nothing choice, because this assumes that really like the privacy practices across apps are like, you know, kind of the same, that there's like an industry standard and kind of there is no app choice that is maybe like more privacy friendly than others. Is that true? Because that's kind of the impression that I got from the talk. Or is there, are there privacy friendly alternatives, and it's just that maybe users who would like to track their menstrual health are not aware of them, and there's maybe something about promoting these alternatives, or do they just not exist?
Yeah, so my colleagues and I are actually working on a research project that is trying to analyze data privacy policies of female health apps and users' experience with that. And we noticed that they're still quite unfriendly. They use very complex language, and they don't provide the option to consent for different things. And that's what I mean by all or nothingness scenario. So you can't choose to opt out of a specific point in the privacy policies, which I think it's quite concerning. And very often they hide information in privacy policies, and they don't ask for explicit consent for it, which I guess is not unethical. It is not ethical.
Hi, I'm just curious, is there any reason why these apps have to collect all this data and process it remotely? Because just from kind of a first impression of the features of these apps, it doesn't seem anything requires heavy cloud-based proprietary processing. I wonder whether it is possible to build a similar app that works purely locally so that none of this is an issue at all. It just seems a little strange that these apps require kind of centralized data collection and all this processing. It's because it's not like it's a social network or something that really has this sort of networking feature. So.
Actually, many of the apps actually have the option for social networking, because they have like included communities in these apps where you can interact with other users or healthcare professionals. So I guess they use social networking, and that's why they store data remotely. If that answers you.
Yes, yeah.
Hello. Yeah. Thank you for the talk. I was just wondering, like, how does a data record that gets sent to a third party look like? Is it all the data the person ever recorded on the app, or is it in some way anonymized, or?
Yeah, so very often data is encrypted, but some privacy policies don't state that it's encrypted, so we can't just assume whether is it or not. But yeah, and I think that they also have contracts with third parties where they negotiate what kind of data they want to share with them, but very often these include health-related data because third parties are usually marketing companies that needs that health-related data in order to target their ads accordingly. I can hear you.
So what do women, aside from the social networking, get from the app that makes it valuable to them? Can you repeat the question for the people on?
Yeah, so what kind of features do they get? What kind of services do they get to make the app valuable? Is that the question? Yeah, I guess so. So as I mentioned, these apps provide period tracking features. So I guess as a woman, this kind of information is quite valuable because we can't just use the family calendar in the living room to track our menstruation and to log in sexual activities and use mathematical equations to see when our period will be in 3 months. So they provide these algorithms and calculations that can provide a full picture of women's and users' menstrual health. And it can also help you notice health issues and I guess feel more confident when talking about it with healthcare professionals. So they just provide patterns which can suggest that something is wrong or you're okay.
There was a study, I think it used links last year, that this kind of user interface asking about exactly that.
Can I disclose your personal information? Yeah, so I don't use this thing. I have no idea when my period is come. I actually use my wife that kind of tracks my period, but she does use an app.
No, I haven't installed the app. Now I have an Apple shortcut that I wrote.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully on my phone. I highly recommend just making a shortcut on your, if you have an Apple device, you can make a shortcut that you will edit notes on your Notes app and then...
Did you make a formula that predicts?
No. It's just a calendar, yeah? At the end of the day, we just want calendars, yeah? We don't need anything fancy.
Yeah.
But then, so I think the question, right, that answers maybe a question of our colleague there, which is, can we do this locally? Of course we can, right? The question is that nobody's going to do it because they have a business model. And the business model is not to give people things to run locally on your phone. Now the question is, if we want to do this thing, and we have a lot of women engineers here that I guess know what women need, right? Because I mean, and many of different needs probably, because we are a lot. Yeah, there's an approximation. I mean, we could build that thing and then put it online and then make a lot of things, and maybe we can actually even win this battle. But you don't need to make an open source thing. It needs to be on the market for the download. Like
it's called BRIP, B-R-I-P.
And it is on the App Store or whatever is. Okay. You can have that one.
Oh, thank you for the talk. I was just wondering if you. Sorry.
Go ahead, please, in the back.
So, okay. I was wondering if you've already worked with regulators with your findings, or do you plan going forward to work with any of the regulators?
Sorry, can you repeat again the question?
Yeah, I was wondering if you have already gone with your findings to regulators, like the regulatory bodies in the UK or the US, trying to tell them about these issues, or do you plan to do that?
That will be very useful. I can share that idea with my team. We're just planning to share the scientific findings, which are still in process, but I think that will be very useful.
Okay, because the FTC in the US nowadays is reaching out a lot to people who work on things like this, and I think even the UK body is very strong, so reaching out should be useful. I see, okay.
Sorry, guys. Last question, because we have to get to our next speaker. The next speaker, feel free to come up and set up your laptop while we do the last question. Go ahead.
Yeah, my gut reaction as a techie is that you should do this locally on your phone, like some of your other have suggested. But then I realized that having the data on your phone is also rather sensitive, for example, in this abortion criminal case.
Yes.
So what would be a reasonable, safe way to store this data? Do you have to actually delete it after a short time, or can you keep this utility of the data and still avoid these risks in some way?
Yes, so I'm not a data security expert, but I guess minimizing the information that you provide about yourself and only providing information that's necessary for the apps to function according to your needs. And I guess using password protection, encryption, anonymization. I think that Flow, after this case, introduced anonymity option, which I think, I'm not quite sure, but I think it works the same way as incognito web tabs work. So they just don't provide, I guess, IP address and user information, so you can anonymize your data. And even if it gets stolen, they won't be able to trace it back to you. So, yeah.
Okay, let's thank our speaker again.